So the talk of the media, whether it's the newspapers or the radio or the broadcast televisions, it's all about the Conservative Party conference that's going on in Manchester. And there's a sort of air of triumphalism, I think, about the conference, as they're still considerably ahead of Keir Starmer's Labour Party in the polls. And from what I've heard from people there, they're partying hard. Yep, they're drinking champagne. They're celebrating in style up in Manchester. And you've never heard Boris Johnson being more bullish than he is. Well, this morning, I was out and about locally for a couple of hours, visiting various shops, and believe it or not, actually for the first time in a week, able to get some fuel, and we'll talk a bit more about fuel later on. But not a single person I met talked about the conference in Manchester. Not a single person I talked to was looking forward to Rishi Sunak's speech, or indeed even the important speech that was going to be given by Lord Frost about Northern Ireland. No, what they were talking about was the fact that nothing in this country actually works. We were told on Wednesday and Thursday of last week by the government that the fuel crisis was easing, there was nothing to worry about, when actually, in London and the South East, the situation was worsening. And even today, only 50% of pumps in the whole of South Eastern England actually have unleaded and diesel for sale. And whilst I did manage to get some fuel this weekend, the queues and the blockages on the roads were something really to witness. And why is all this happening? Well, of course, there are some who'll say it's all because of Brexit. But the real reason is, of course, that we've had a race to the bottom because of EU rules. And we've seen conditions and pay for HGV drivers going down the drain over the course of the last few years. And a backlog at the DVLA. I mean, can you believe it? A backlog at the DVLA of 54,000 HGV applications. I had a furious email from somebody that works at DVLA over the weekend saying I shouldn't criticise them. I wasn't criticising you, Claire. I'm sure you work very hard at the DVLA, but I am criticising Grant Shapps, who knew about this problem back in March of this year and appeared to do precious little. You begin to feel that nothing is actually working in this country. And then, of course, we've got the eco-idiots of Insulate Britain. But we've had tough words from Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, tough words from Boris Johnson. Now we were told an injunction had been passed, so it wouldn't happen again. Yet today was the worst day yet of Insulate Britain, as they blocked the Blackwall Tunnel, they blocked Wandsworth Bridge and many other major routes into London. And look, you see on these pictures what happens when people lose respect for government, lose respect for policing powers. They start to take the law into their own hands. And I don't blame those guys for dragging protesters out of the road, because they are trying to earn a living. And we'll do that story in more depth. But once again, we just don't be able to appear to get a grip on any of this. Well, if it all becomes too much for you, and if, like me, you agree that things just aren't working in this country anymore, and that we have a government that just doesn't seem to understand what the problems are for millions of people every day, well, you could always go on holiday. Yes, why not go on holiday? The problem is, when you get back in to Stansted or Heathrow or pretty much anywhere else, you'll find that the e-gates aren't working. You'll find that border force are understaffed because at times they have to send big resources down to Dover. And you'll find queues of perhaps up to 5 hours. That from a border force under a Home Secretary who told us the Channel migrant crisis would end before too long. And so far this year, 17,000 people have been processed through Dover. And towards the end of this week, when the fine weather comes back, we'll be back to hundreds of people every day. Another crisis, another part of our government system that simply isn't fit for purpose. And woe betide you in modern Britain if you're ill, or if you suspect that you might be ill. Because in many parts of the country, your chance of a face-to-face consultation with a GP is hovering at around about 50%. Oh, and that's if you can be prepared to wait the 5 weeks that it now takes to get a GP appointment in parts of Cumbria. For the first time ever, the number of hip and knee replacements done in private hospitals has exceeded that done in the National Health Service, as people who are fortunate enough to have money increasingly opt out of the system. We have an impending health crisis of a massive scale. And the fact the government tell us there'll be 40 more walk-in centres, I don't think even begins to scratch the surface of the problem. But don't worry, because Christmas is coming, and we can all celebrate at Christmas. But sadly, Scrooge has even managed to get hold of that one, as we're told there won't be any pigs in blankets, and you'll be very lucky to get a turkey, as they're selling out already. So I put it to you that this is a government that can celebrate all they like, party as hard as they want to in Manchester. This is a government that is completely out of touch with where the country is today.